Chapter 2017. Bang! Luo Qingtong stomped her back onto the corpse. Fang Jingyu, don't try to provoke me. I won't let you die easily. Trust me. You can't bear the consequences. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Blood flashed in her eyes. How could she not know what Fang Jingyu was thinking? She wanted to provoke her and then die quickly. But how could it be so easy? If she wanted to kill her, she would have done it long ago. Why would she wait until now? Now speak. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. How did you people from Beast Taming King's Valley discover my identity? How did you catch up with me? In addition, in the Broken Star Valley, what else is there besides the 5th beast taming incantation? You know all of it. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, Fang Jingyu's heart was shocked. The 5th beast taming incantation was not recorded in the holy book. How did Luo Qingtong know? What, are you surprised that I know? Luo Qingtong looked at Fang Jingyu with raised eyebrows. I also know that the combination of your Beast Taming King Valley's 4 beast taming arts and the 5th beast taming art is a true flawless beast taming art. If not, why would she spare Fang Jingyu's life for the time being? The beast taming incantation that you people from Beast Taming King's Valley cultivate is just a defective copy, right? You. Fang Jingyu looked at Luo Qingtong in shock. She struggled with all her might on the corpse. How do you know all of this? This was impossible. Only the top people in Beast Taming King's Valley knew that the 4 beast taming incantations were complete. If she wasn't the daughter of Beast Taming King Guguju, she wouldn't know this. How did Luo Qingtong know? How could she know such a thing? Fang Jingyu's heart was full of disbelief. You don't need to know how I found out. The important thing is whether you want to tell me what you know. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. Fang Jingyu looked conflicted. She looked at Luo Qingtong with hatred and resentment. She didn't want the other party to get what she wanted. Why should she tell him everything she knew? But if he didn't speak, he would die. Besides, if she didn't say anything, couldn't Luo Qingtong find the answer from other places? Thinking of this, Fang Jingyu gritted her teeth. Then she said to Luo Qingtong with a twisted expression, "If you swear that you will let me go after I tell you, and that you and everyone around you will not attack me, hurt me, or kill me, then I will tell you." Good. Luo Qingtong looked at her, the corners of her lips slightly raised, and she agreed in an unusually straightforward manner. As long as you swear to the heavens that you are telling the truth, I will let you go. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. She would naturally let go Fang Jingyu, but at that time she was afraid that Fang Jingyu would rather her than let her go. Good. Fang Jingyu nodded. Although she was puzzled by Luo Qingtong's straightforward answer, she thought about it. But she thought about it again and again. She was very sure that if Luo Qingtong swore according to what she said, there was no loophole to take advantage of. The other party could only let her go. At that time, when she returned to the Beast Taming King Valley team, she would definitely make the other party pay the price. Luo Qingtong, just you wait. As long as I can survive this time, I will make you beg for death in the future. It's over. 8 chapters. Guaranteed minimum of 4 chapters, plus 4 chapters. I've paid back all the tips and updates I owe. Also, happy 520 PDA. I love you guys. Chapter 2018. I was able to find you because you have the aura of the holy book on you. Fang Jingyu said coldly. She and Luo Qingtong had both sworn an oath to the heavens. Seeing that there was no problem, she opened her mouth and told them the reason why she could see Luo Qingtong. The holy book. Luo Qingtong raised an eyebrow. No wonder the people from Beast Taming King's Valley could find her. Apart from her, only the highest level of the Beast Taming King's Valley had touched the holy book. It was indeed easy to find her through the aura. However, there's a limit to the aura, right? Luo Qingtong raised an eyebrow at Fang Jingyu. Otherwise, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley wouldn't have waited until the land of the deceased immortals was about to open to find her at the entrance. Yes. Fang Jingyu said coldly, there's a limit to the distance. Therefore, after Beast Taming King Guguju and the others were stopped by the people from the Sky Branch, she and the people from Celestial Palace were the only ones who managed to catch up. Otherwise, how could Luo Qingtong have escaped so easily? She wouldn't have been the one to be trampled to the ground and faced with the bloody corpse. Thinking of this, Fang Jingyu's heart was filled with hatred and resentment. However, she quickly calmed down. In the land of the deceased immortals, they would always have a chance to find and deal with Luo Qingtong. Unless she gave up on the great benefits in the land of the deceased immortals and left, not participating in the battles and trials here. But was that possible? Fang Jingyu sneered. Even if Luo Qingtong didn't have the treasure map to the center of the land of the deceased immortals, Fang Jingyu wouldn't miss the opportunity to train in the land of the deceased immortals. After all, even if Luo Qingtong left the land of the deceased immortals, she would be able to avoid their search and pursuit this time. In the future she wouldn't be able to escape from the hidden world. Therefore Luo Qingtong wouldn't give up the opportunity to enter the land of the deceased immortals. By then he would have countless ways to find her and kill her in the land of the deceased immortals. At that thought, Fang Jingyu looked at Luo Qingtong and said coldly, "Even so, Luo Qingtong, you can't escape. We, the beast-taming King Valley, have countless ways to find you. As long as you are within our sensing range. Even if you were underground, we would still be able to find you." There were many beast-tamer King Valley disciples in the fallen immortal land. Sooner or later someone would discover Luo Qingtong. At that time, the other party would most likely be silently surrounded. By the time the situation was discovered, it was already too late. Thinking of this, Fang Jingyu laughed coldly. She wasn't afraid that Luo Qingtong would kill her. After all, she still wanted to interrogate her. Moreover, Luo Qingtong had just made an oath. Is that so? Luo Qingtong looked at Fang Jingyu's smug and arrogant expression and smiled. Then let's wait and see. Sometimes, it was a rare pleasure to see prey struggling in self-righteous ways. Do you have a way to remove this feeling? Fang Jingyu asked. No. Fang Jingyu said coldly, then looked at Luo Qingtong mockingly. You still want to remove this feeling? I advise you to stop dreaming. The Saint Book was the most important thing in the beast-taming King Valley. Chapter 2019. If Luo Qingtong hadn't been discovered, it would have been fine. They wouldn't have thought of using this method to deal with her and confirm her identity. After all, the aura on the Holy Book could only be determined and activated by the Beast-Tamer King's Valley's Dark Branch's unique array. But once it was determined and activated, Luo Qingtong wouldn't be able to remove it. Unless she died. Otherwise this aura would follow her for life. As long as the Beast-Tamer King's Valley sensed it, they would be able to find her. You really don't have it? Luo Qingtong looked at her with a chuckle. Then if the people of the Beast-Tamer King's Valley touched the Holy Book, they would also carry this mark for life? Fang Jingyu, don't tease me. Or are you trying to tell me that you don't know what this aura mark represents? Luo Qingtong looked at Fang Jingyu with a smile. She would touch the Holy Book, the people of the Beast-Tamer King's Valley would also touch it. Could it be that those people would leave such a hidden danger? One must know that once one was marked, there was a possibility that one's whereabouts could be investigated and traced. Were the hearts of the Beast-Tamer King Guguju and the others so big? Weren't they afraid that there would be people who wanted to harm them and take their positions and kill them? Luo Qingtong didn't believe that the people of the Beast-Tamer King's Valley would be so harmonious. Therefore there must be a way to remove this aura so that others couldn't sense it. Fang Jingyu gritted her teeth and looked at Luo Qingtong. The girl's every question was very sharp and to the point. Moreover, she was very insightful, making it impossible for her to deceive her. Damn it, why was the other party so good at asking questions? What she didn't know was that this was a necessary skill for Luo Qingtong in her previous life. When doing a mission, when being chased, if she couldn't even get the basic information from other people's words, Luo Qingtong might as well wait for death. There is indeed a way to hide this aura. But this aura can't be removed. Fang Jingyu said coldly. She had indeed wanted to use this method of secretly changing the concept to avoid the problem of Luo Qingtong. Unexpectedly, Luo Qingtong was not fooled at all. If he continued to hide it, he would be punished by the heavenly Tao. Fang Jingyu had no choice but to say this. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong immediately raised her eyebrows. What method? This method is useless to you. Fang Jingyu said coldly. She didn't say it not because she was afraid that Luo Qingtong would learn it, but because she didn't want Luo Qingtong to know so much. He simply didn't want to talk about it. Since Luo Qingtong wanted to hear it, then she would tell her. The only way to conceal this aura is to practice our beast-taming King Valley's unique cultivation technique. At that time the two auras will cancel each other out. But in our beast-taming King's Valley, That technique can only be cultivated after being selected by the dark department and injected with a special type of energy. Otherwise, ordinary cultivators can't practice it at all. Tell me, how can you conceal this aura? Her face was full of ridicule. She had said before that Luo Qingtong could stop dreaming. Attribute aura? Soul seal aura? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She thought that she probably understood what was going on with the unique cultivation technique that the people of beast-taming King's Valley practiced. Like the soul seal, only people with a specific attribute aura can practice it, right? That cultivation technique. Chapter 2020. This was done by the founder of the Dark Department? Luo Qingtong's eyes narrowed slightly. His soul seal's aura can form a special connection and response with other auras. So he thought of using this to protect the holy book's aura? Luo Qingtong tapped the back of her other hand with her finger, then looked at Fang Jingyu and said, the so-called special method that allows people to cultivate that unique technique is just to symbolically display the aura of the soul seal, right? She raised her eyebrows and looked at Fang Jingyu. Under normal circumstances, if a cultivator didn't possess the attribute of the soul seal, they wouldn't be able to cultivate that soul seal's cultivation technique. But if one didn't require attack power and only wanted to possess the aura of the soul seal, there were still some special methods to achieve it. Was this what Fang Jingyu meant when she said that? Otherwise, Luo Qingtong really couldn't think of any special technique that could only be cultivated by the people selected by the Dark Department of the Beast Tamer King's Valley. Take note, it was the people they selected. Not the people who had some kind of innate talent. Fang Jingyu's face was cold and she didn't speak. Her heart was in a perilous situation. Luo Qingtong's ability to ask questions was really too amazing. She didn't say much at all, but the other party was able to guess most of the information from her words. Fortunately, even if Luo Qingtong guessed correctly, she still couldn't cultivate that special technique. She still couldn't conceal the aura on her body. Thinking of this, Fang Jingyu sneered. That's right, it's just as you said. But so what? She snorted coldly and looked at Luo Qingtong. You still can't get rid of the aura on your body. You don't need to worry about whether I can get rid of it or not. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. She was born with the mixed yuan body so she could cultivate any attribute of the technique. She didn't need to go through the Beast Tamer King's Valley's special method of injecting aura. So what Fang Jingyu thought about that she couldn't cultivate didn't exist at all. Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong suddenly said to Fang Jing, write down that cultivation technique from memory. As she spoke, she took out a pen and paper from the trash ring in her hand and tossed it to Fang Jingyu. What? Fang Jingyu stared blankly at the pen and paper that Luo Qingtong had thrown in front of her. Why do you want me to write it down from memory? She couldn't cultivate. You just have to write it down from memory. Luo Qingtong looked indifferent. Did she need to tell Fang Jingyu whether she could cultivate or not? Fang Jingyu sneered. She thought that Luo Qingtong was unwilling to give up and wanted to try. Since that was the case, she would let her know what despair was. As she thought about it, she immediately wrote down the cultivation method from memory. In any case, she had great confidence in this. Even if Luo Qingtong cultivated until she vomited blood, it was impossible for her to succeed. This was something that the Beast Taming King's Valley had long since verified. Fang Jingyu quickly wrote down the cultivation method from memory. Luo Qingtong glanced at it and put it away. She had already memorized this cultivation method in her mind and began to silently circulate it in her body. Then she looked at Fang Jingyu and asked, next, it's about the Shattered Star Valley. How much do you know about it? Don't you already know most of it? Chapter 2021. When Luo Qingtong talked about the fifth beast taming art, she was very shocked. This was definitely the biggest secret of their beast taming King Valley. Even if Luo Qingtong had read the holy book, she shouldn't know about it. Thinking about it, Fang Jingyu clenched her teeth and said, in the Broken Star Valley, the founder of our beast taming King Valley accidentally found an expert's inheritance. As you've seen in the Saint Book, our Beast Taming King Valley's beast taming incantations and various powerful cultivation methods and martial skills are mostly obtained from the Saint Book. And those beast taming art were all incomplete copies that we copied from there. Although it can control demonic beasts, it has a lot of drawbacks. As she spoke, she looked at Luo Qingtong with a sinister gaze and said, previously in the Beast Garden, didn't my father's demonic beasts bite back? Luo Qingtong, tell me honestly, was that your doing? Fang Jingyu's voice was cold and harsh. Her tragic fate had begun when she was in the Beast Garden. Disfigured and half-crippled. It was all because of the riot in the Beast Garden. Although she hated Luo Qingtong before, she didn't think that Luo Qingtong could control those demonic beasts and cause all this. She only thought that Luo Qingtong didn't fall into her trap, causing her to rush over to check and end up like this. But now, after hearing Luo Qingtong talk about the fifth beast taming art, she wasn't sure anymore. After all, if Luo Qingtong knew about the fifth beast taming art, it meant that she was very familiar with their beast taming King Valley's beast taming art. Was Luo Qingtong the one who harmed her? It was me. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't feel that there was anything to hide. Not only the Beast Garden but also the Superior Sirius Flower and the deaths of Han Dong and the others, it was all my doing. Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, and Fang Jingyu's expression instantly became as sinister as a ghost. You did it. You actually did it all. Her voice was shrill. Fang Jingyu didn't think too much about it before. She only thought that Luo Qingtong came for the holy book. He only used the Superior Sirius Flower to attract the attention of Beast Tamer King Guguju and the others. But now that Luo Qingtong said it, she realized that it was all Luo Qingtong's doing. She killed Han Dong and ruined her birthday banquet. She was the one who had caused him to become like this. Fang Jingyu's expression was fierce. Almost instantly she couldn't control herself and pounced on Luo Qingtong. Bang! Luo Qingtong kicked her back to the ground and stepped on her firmly. Fang Jingyu, you still don't know who's the one calling the shots? Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold and she kicked Fang Jingyu away. Fang Jingyu fell heavily on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Beside her was Elder Hua from Celestial Palace. Luo Qingtong. Fang Jingyu's voice was shrill. You swore to the heavens that as long as I told you everything you wanted to know, you would let me go. Now let me go. She shouted at Luo Qingtong. That kick just now was because she attacked Luo Qingtong first and the latter hit her back, so it didn't count. She wanted to leave this place immediately. Luo Qingtong, just you wait. When she returned to the Beast Tamer King's Valley team, she would kill her. Alright. Luo Qingtong looked at Elder Hua lying beside her and raised her eyebrows. Chapter 2022. With that she turned around and left. Fang Jingyu was stunned for a moment as she watched her leave. Although she didn't know why Luo Qingtong was so easy to talk to and didn't even make things difficult for her, Fang Jingyu didn't have time to think about it. She quickly struggled to get up from the ground. He was about to run away. However, before she could get up from the ground, beside her, the body of Elder Hua from Celestial Palace started to squirm slowly. His movements were small at first, then became bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger. Even his whole body was trembling violently. Fang Jingyu felt the movement beside her. Suddenly her whole body stiffened. He thought of something. This Elder Hua from Celestial Palace didn't die. Shouldn't he have been killed by Luo Qingtong? If he didn't die, then Fang Jingyu's face turned pale in an instant. She suddenly remembered the loophole in the oath she made with Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong didn't need to do it herself. She didn't even need to use anyone or anything around her, and she could easily put him to death. As long as she didn't kill Elder Hua from Celestial Palace, then she would take away all the celestial jade bones in his body. The other party would be eroded by the aura of the graveyard of immortals and become like a living dead. Thinking of this, Fang Jingyu's face instantly turned pale and terrified. At this moment, Luo Qingtong's voice came from the direction she left. Fang Jingyu, I'll fulfill your request and let you go. In addition, I have a big gift for you. The ending you imagined for me before, I've prepared it for you. Just enjoy it. No need to thank me. As Luo Qingtong spoke, her figure suddenly flashed and completely disappeared in front of Fang Jingyu. The moment she leaped away, Fang Jingyu clearly saw that the white light emitted from Luo Qingtong's body disappeared. Completely disappeared in front of her. And Luo Qingtong's voice showed that she had actually just left. What did this mean? Fang Jingyu's face became more and more frightened and incredulous. Luo Qingtong actually succeeded in cultivating. It was that technique. It was that technique that neutralized the aura of the holy book in Luo Qingtong's body. Luo Qingtong could actually cultivate the unique technique of the beast-taming King Valley. What kind of monster was she? Fang Jingyu's face full of horror and regret. Only now did she realize how stupid she had been in the past. She thought that Luo Qingtong was nothing special and that she could easily kill her. But she didn't know that she was provoking a sleeping phoenix. When the phoenix awoke and spread its wings, she would be burned to ashes by the phoenix's own glory and flames. Bang! Fang Jingyu's figure was viciously pressed to the ground by the mutated Elder Hua of the Celestial Palace. The latter had completely turned into a walking corpse and was biting viciously at Fang Jingyu. Her sharp nails dug into Fang Jingyu's arm. But this wasn't what made Fang Jingyu feel the most terrified and hopeless. What made her feel the most terrified and hopeless was the other party's steel-like lower body. The words Luo Qingtong said before she left flashed through her mind. Fang Jingyu instantly let out an incomparably shrill scream. That scream was unusually mournful and terrifying. Chapter 2023. Ah! Fang Jingyu's screams were mixed with the sound of the wind, as well as some kind of painful groan and chewing sound spreading far and wide. Among them, there was also an extremely terrifying beast-like roar without a trace of human aura. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. When Fang Jingyu's screams were heard, her figure had already flown hundreds of meters forward. Everything that Fang Jingyu had encountered in this club was the result of her own suffering. She was prepared to use this method to deal with Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong could only use this method to deal with her. It would also save her from being dissatisfied with her own end, wasn't it? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. When that elder Hua fainted, Luo Qingtong had already given him an aphrodisiac. At the same time, Luo Qingtong also took away all the immortal jade bones in his body. Of course, for many cultivators, in order to prevent others from secretly harming them, their immortal jade bones would be placed very secretively. It was very difficult to be stolen and discovered, and they would be placed in several places. But this was not a problem for Luo Qingtong at all. She easily took out all the immortal jade bones in that Celestial Palace Elder Hua's body through her blood eyes. It was also because of this that the Celestial Palace Elder Hua's expression was so shocked and desperate at that time. Because he had already thought of what would happen to him later. That was to be eroded to death by the aura of the Graveyard of Immortals. However, he did not know that Luo Qingtong did this not to let him die miserably. She wanted to use him to deal with Fang Jingyu. Fang Jingyu thought that she was smart and made Luo Qingtong swear that after she told her everything, she would not do anything to her and could only let her go. However, before Luo Qingtong was ready to ask, she already knew that Fang Jingyu would definitely use this opportunity to threaten her. And she was willing to give her this opportunity. After all, only by giving Fang Jingyu hope would she be able to tell the truth one by one. Wasn't that right? He had given her hope to live, and then he had shattered it all. To Fang Jingyu, this was more painful and despairing than any other punishment. Not to mention, not only had she told Luo Qingtong everything she knew, she had also helped her conceal the aura of the holy book. This alone was enough to make Fang Jingyu unable to rest in peace. Luo Qingtong had never been a kind person. Those who wanted her dead, she would retaliate with methods that were 100 times more ruthless. In a world where the strong were respected, kindness could not protect oneself and the people around you. Only blood could. Therefore, everyone who wanted to take her life had to die. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. She flitted through the land of the fallen immortals. At this time, the people from beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace lost track of her and were too lazy to bother with the people from the Sky Branch. Let's go. Beast-tamer King Guguju's voice was cold. His gaze swept across the people from the Sky Branch and he ordered the people around him, keep an eye on them. Luo Qingtong has a close relationship with them, she might come looking for them. Also, they might know the route of the treasure map. Don't let any suspicious signs slip by. Yes. The people from beast-taming King's Valley heard the order, and in an instant, some of them disappeared. Chapter 2024. Cooperation. The Celestial Palace Lord was surprised. He looked at the beast-tamer King Guguju. What was the other party planning? They actually wanted to cooperate with the Celestial Palace? The Celestial Zenith Palace Master had a cautious expression. He looked at the beast-tamer King Guguju suspiciously and said, "What's the reason for cooperation?" Beast-tamer King Guguju, with the strength of your beast-tamer King Valley, you don't need to cooperate with us, right? Even if they had the same enemy. And Luo Qingtong was most likely backed by the Sky Yuan sect. But this shouldn't be the reason for the beast-tamer King Valley to cooperate with them. With the strength of the beast-tamer King Valley, They didn't need to be afraid of the Sky Yuan sect. Humph. I naturally have my reasons for saying this. The beast tamer King Guguju said while gritting his teeth. The reason why he said this was because Luo Qingtong spied on their holy book and learned the secret of the Broken Star Valley. If she spread this news, it would be troublesome. So the beast tamer King Guguju wanted to cooperate with the Celestial Palace and get the things inside as soon as possible. Especially the fifth beast tamer secret art. As long as they could get that secret art. The beast tamer King Valley's beast tamer secret art would be eliminated. At that time, their strength combined with the strength of their contracted beasts would reach a whole new level. For the beast tamer King Valley, this was a major event related to the future development of the sect, and also a major event related to their own strength. Naturally, they couldn't be careless. I need the help of the Celestial Palace, we need to get something together. As long as the people of the Celestial Palace agree to cooperate, then our previous grievances will be written off. Not only that, after we get Luo Qingtong's treasure map, the people of the Beast Tamer King Valley can also bring you into the Forbidden Area. At that time, we'll rely on our own abilities to get the treasure. Beast Tamer King Guguju's words were a promise to the Celestial Palace Master that he was willing to share Luo Qingtong's treasure map with them. In this way, even if they could not obtain the treasure indicated on the treasure map, the other benefits would be enough for the people of Celestial Palace to enjoy. Not to mention they still had the chance to seize the treasure. With that in mind, the Celestial Palace Master immediately agreed. Sure. We from Celestial Palace are willing to cooperate with you. All right. The Beast Tamer King Guguju looked very satisfied. With the help of the Celestial Palace, he might be able to get the fifth part of the animal taming incantation from the Broken Stars Valley. After all, the previous few times they were only a little bit off. Once they got the fifth beast taming incantation, they wouldn't have to worry about Luo Qingtong leaking the existence of the Broken Star Valley. With that in mind, the Beast Tamer King Guguju immediately led them and the people of the Beast Tamer King Valley to the Broken Star Valley. After they left, the people of the Sky Yuan sect also prepared to move on. At this moment, Qin Tong suddenly looked at Su Yu and the others and said, "Wait. Are they going to part ways with us?" With that, he looked at Su Yu and the others with a cold snort and said, "And those celestial jade bones they have, I'm afraid they have to return them to the Sky Yuan sect. After all, Luo Qingtong is not here. She can't fulfill her agreement with us." Chapter 2025. Qin Tong's words instantly enraged the Grand Supreme Dean. "Qin Tong, what do you mean by that?" "What do I mean?" He looked at Su Yu and the others and raised his voice. "What I mean is Luo Qingtong told us that she would help us solve the hidden danger of the Forbidden Area's power, and then we would help her take care of the people around her, right? But now she can't even protect herself. She might not even be able to get out of the land of the fallen immortals alive. How can we take care of these people for her? Not to mention that we have to support their immortal jade bones. Why? These immortal jade bones were obtained by the disciples of the Sky Yuan sect. It's not for some people to use as a favor." As Qin Tong spoke, he looked coldly at the Grand Supreme Dean and said, "Shu Yi, I know that Luo Qingtong is your student, but a favor is a favor and a deal is a deal. You can't use our Sky Yuan sect's things to do a favor for your reputation, right?" Qin Tong's words could be said to be a very merciless criticism. At this moment he felt an indescribable exultation in his heart. Originally, although he was unhappy that Luo Qingtong had helped the Grand Supreme Dean win back the position of the Sky Yuan sect's chief disciple, there was nothing he could do about it. But this was good. Luo Qingtong had offended people from the Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace, and was being hunted down by these two sects. Not to mention that it was basically impossible for her to leave the land of the fallen immortals alive. Even if she could survive after leaving the land of the fallen immortals, would the people from the Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace let her go? Therefore, her deal with the Sky Yuan sect could be said to be completely invalid. In that case, what was he afraid of? Without Luo Qingtong's ability, the elders of the Sky Yuan sect might not help them like before. Sure enough, after hearing his words, many elders of the Sky Yuan sect frowned. That's right, Luo Qingtong was unlikely to fulfill her promise with them. In that case, they didn't need to provide Su Yu and the others with immortal jade bones. After all, this wasn't a small amount. With that thought in mind, many elders stood on Qin Tong's side. Seeing this, the latter immediately put on a smug look. Did you see that? That was what everyone thought as well. So, Zhu Yi, if you must do them a favor, then use your own immortal jade bones to support them, right? Don't use the sect's interests for personal gain. The moment Qin Tong's words left his mouth, the Grand Supreme Dean was about to explode from anger. He was using the sect's benefits for personal gain. These people didn't even know how this deal came about. Did they really think that Luo Qingtong had taken advantage of them with these immortal jade bones? That was because they had taken advantage of others, alright. Purifying immortal jade bones. If it weren't for the fact that they had to protect that girl and were afraid that revealing too much of her abilities would be detrimental to her, how could they possibly tell the outside world that it was because Luo Qingtong had promised to dissolve the mysterious power of the Forbidden Zone for them, so they had taken care of Su Yu and the others for her and even provided them with immortal jade bones? A bunch of idiots. Luo Qingtong's ability to purify immortal jade bones was extremely rare. They didn't even know that they had taken advantage of her. Because Luo Qingtong was in trouble, they wanted to burn the bridge after crossing it. The Grand Supreme Dean pointed at the group of people who supported Qin Tong with trembling fingers. He was about to curse out loud and reveal the truth. At this moment, Bai Suqing stood up. Wait. Chapter 2026. She emphasized her words and at the same time signaled her father to keep quiet. The sect master of the Sky Yuan sect frowned when Qin Tong spoke. When a group of elders stood out to speak for Qin Tong, he was ready to stand out and announce the real deal to the public. However, he did not expect his daughter to stop him. He looked at Bai Suqing with a helpless expression. He roughly knew what she was going to do. This daughter of his. She had always been fierce and she had a clear distinction between love and hate. She was good, she was good. She was not good, she was not good. She liked Luo Qingtong, and the latter had saved her life, restored her cultivation and brought Zhu Yi back to her side. She would definitely stand on that girl's side. As for those who helped Qin Tong and wanted to burn the bridge after crossing the river, his daughter would not let them off. They would regret it. He shook his head as he thought about it. These people were too eager for quick success. When they saw that Luo Qingtong was useless, they wanted to abandon Su Yu and the others. Who knew that the deal between Luo Qingtong and them was not what they had expected. Forget it, let them be taught a lesson. It was also good to let them know that the decisions they had made were not to be easily questioned. The sect master of the Sky Yuan sect did not speak anymore and he just watched from the side. After Bai Suqing spoke, Qin Tong immediately said, "Of course. Luo Qingtong can't even protect herself now, so the deal is invalid. I believe that everyone has the same thought as me. They are not willing to work for others." Right. Bai Suqing looked at him and sneered. In that case, the deal has become a favor, right? Luo Qingtong promised us before. She will help us if she wants to, and she will not help us if she doesn't want to, right? That's right. Qin Tong agreed, and he looked at Bai Suqing with a puzzled expression. Why did she say this? Could it be that Luo Qingtong could run out and continue to fulfill the deal with them? That was impossible. If she were to appear, the people from Beast Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace wouldn't let her off. She couldn't even protect herself, so how could she care about this? As he thought about it, Qin Tong immediately confirmed the idea in his heart. Bai Suqing must be deliberately mystifying them. She wanted them to feel that there was a trap and deliberately retreat. Do you want to use this method to protect Luo Qingtong? Qin Tong sneered and agreed without the slightest hesitation. All right. Bai Suqing looked at him and nodded. Then she turned to the others and said, "Is there anyone on your side who thinks the same as him? Step forward." After everyone who supported Qin Tong stood out, Bai Suqing finally spoke to Su Yu and the others. "All right, the deal between the Sky Yuan sect and your master is invalid. Now you can give the purified celestial jade bones to whoever you want. Those who don't want to trade with you, don't give them a single piece." As soon as Bai Suqing said this, Qin Tong and the people who supported him were stunned. What did you say?" Qin Tong looked at Bai Suqing in disbelief. What did Bai Suqing just say? "I said the deal is invalid." Bai Suqing snorted coldly when she saw their disbelief. "Isn't this what you want?" "Oh right, I forgot to tell you. Previously, in order to protect Luo Qingtong, we concealed the fact that the purified celestial jade bones were provided by her. Therefore, in addition to resolving the power of the restricted area for us, Luo Qingtong actually provided us with the purified celestial jade bones in exchange for us to take care of Su Yu and the others and provide them with the celestial jade bones. Of course, you are not willing to provide them with the celestial jade bones. Chapter 2027. Qin Tong and the others almost fainted when they heard what Bai Suqing said. What did she say? The purifying celestial jade bones were provided by Luo Qingtong. The reason why Su Yu and the others stayed in the Sky Yuan sect team was not to take advantage of the Sky Yuan sect as they thought. It was the Grand Supreme Dean who purposely took advantage of the Sky Yuan sect's benefits to do a favor for himself, in exchange for the purifying celestial jade bones. Everyone was shocked. They did not know what kind of stupid thing they had done. The purifying celestial jade bones. In exchange for some celestial jade bones and a chance for Su Yu and the others to stay in the Sky Yuan sect. No matter how they looked at it, this was a good deal. If it were not for the Grand Supreme Dean, Luo Qingtong would not have told the Sky Yuan sect about this, let alone make a deal with them. But now they had forcefully rejected this deal. Everyone was dumbfounded for a while and they felt as if the world was spinning around them. Qin Tong was even more confused. He thought that he could take advantage of Luo Qingtong's predicament to make a move on Su Yu and the others. Without the protection of the Sky Yuan sect and without enough celestial jade bones, how could they survive in the graveyard of immortals? However, who would have thought that he would be slapped in the face after 3 seconds of complacency? The person who slapped him in the face was none other than Luo Qingtong, who was not even here. Using the purifying celestial jade bones in exchange for a chance for Su Yu and the others to stay in the Sky Yuan sect, as well as a supply of celestial jade bones. Who would dare to say that they were taking advantage of the Sky Yuan sect? This was clearly letting the Sky Yuan sect take advantage of them. Oh my god. Qin Tong was completely dumbfounded. He did not expect things to turn out this way. If he had not created such a mess, he would have been able to enjoy the purifying celestial jade bones as well. Because Luo Qingtong had made a deal with the entire Sky Yuan sect. But now it was all over. He had cut off this opportunity himself. It was he who could not wait and had threatened and forced them to cut off this opportunity. He did not even have the chance to accuse the Grand Supreme Dean and the others of taking revenge on him. Because he was the one who had caused this matter. Not only that, but he had also dragged a group of people down with him. Qin Tong saw the people around him were looking at him. Especially the few elders who were persuaded by him and stood on his side, looking at him with resentful gazes. He instantly rolled his eyes and fainted. There was no other reason than because he had dragged so many people he had been dragged down with him. It was because he had caused the Sky Yuan sect was in the cleansing celestial jade sect? Because the Grand Supreme Dean and the others had it? In the future, Qin Tong's days in the Heavenly Yuan sect would definitely be tough. Not only. After he fainted, Bai Suqing coldly snorted. She looked at Su Yu and the others and said, "Fortunately, your master was considerate and put those purified immortal jade bones on you. We agreed that if you were treated unfairly, the transaction would be cancelled immediately. Qin Tong is a fool. He thought he could deal with you and force you into a desperate situation. But he didn't know that this was all part of that girl's plan. She can't wait for him to cause trouble. She can torture him to death." Bai Suqing also felt very comfortable in her heart. Chapter 2028. Especially those who targeted the Grand Supreme Dean and Luo Qingtong. Now it was finally peaceful. And they didn't have to share the purified immortal jade bones with them. It really made people vent their anger. Especially those who stood on Qin Tong's side. Most of them were on his side, or they didn't get along with her father's opinions. She took the opportunity to deal with them all. And she didn't have to be labeled as someone who eliminated dissidents. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Her father was soft-hearted, but she wasn't. She would deal with all these people, so that no more trouble would happen during this trip to the graveyard of immortals. What happened to Zhu Yi in the graveyard of immortals couldn't happen again. The Grand Supreme Dean was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. "You guys," he raised his finger and pointed at Bai Suqing. Then he turned his head and pointed at Su Yu and the others. Then he lowered his voice and shouted, "Have you all planned this?" To think that he was so angry just now. Didn't these people know to tell him? Not really. Bai Suqing looked at him and said, "Qin Tong was afraid that Qin Tong would cause trouble, so she specifically said that before she left. But we didn't expect that before we could do anything he would seek his own death. She suggested that the deal be cancelled and they didn't fulfill his wish. They felt sorry for themselves. Not only did it save them trouble but it also made them take the blame. What else could she say when she was full of hatred? That stinky girl, she can't even stop after she left. The Grand Supreme Dean heard this and muttered in his heart. Then he couldn't help but sigh. Sigh, do you think something will happen to that girl? Pai heart, sigh. As he spoke, he let out a heavy sigh. Bai Suqing, Su Yu and the rest were all silent. No one knew if something would happen to Luo Qingtong. There were dangers everywhere in the graveyard of immortals, not to mention the people from Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace waiting to deal with Luo Qingtong. And the latter wasn't in the same place as them. Even if they wanted to help, they couldn't. At this moment, Su Xiaoxiao's voice suddenly sounded. Boss will be fine. She'll be fine, she said firmly, so we have to work hard to improve our strength. When we find Boss, we can protect her by her side. As soon as her voice rang out, everyone's spirits were lifted. That's right, that girl is blessed by the heavens. Nothing will happen to her. Let's go. Let's see if we can find her in this fallen immortal land. The Grand Principal said. Su Yu and the others also nodded their heads and said, that's right. Master's ability is extraordinary. You will definitely be fine. Moreover, there was still Ming Zun outside. When everyone thought of Yi Qianxian, they immediately calmed down. Ming Zun would definitely not let anything happen to Master. They couldn't sense Master's safety, but Ming Zun definitely could. At that time, if something happened to his master, he would definitely cause a huge commotion, even if he had to go against the entire land of the deceased immortals. As they thought of this, everyone's hearts were filled with confidence. They followed the Sky Yuan sect team into the depths of the land of the deceased immortals. They had to work hard to improve their strength. They definitely wouldn't let down the opportunity Luo Qingtong created for them. Chapter 2029. Bang! Luo Qingtong sent a figure flying out of the ground with her sword. Her blood-red eyes had been open ever since she entered the land of the deceased immortals. As soon as she reached this place, she felt that there was a black shadow following her from underground. She purposely paused and the black shadow rushed out from the ground. It was sent flying by Luo Qingtong's sword, which she had been ready to attack. Bang! The dark shadow fell heavily to the ground. Luo Qingtong saw that it was a corpse covered in green hair. The corpse's face was stiff and greenish-black, and its skin was like gold and iron. The green hair covered its body like a layer of green armor. What is this? Luo Qingtong raised her eyebrows. She leaped up and nailed the green-haired corpse to the ground with a single blow. The green-haired corpse roared and tried to get up from the ground, but Luo Qingtong accurately smashed its heart. Luo Qingtong wiped the life and death duality sword in her hand. She looked up at the corpse and saw that its clothes were very strange. It didn't look like someone from the hidden world or even someone from the true Spill continent. It's someone from the outer realms. At this moment, Little Pig jumped onto Luo Qingtong's shoulder. It looked at the green-haired corpse on the ground. It's a corpse of a powerhouse from the outer realms who was eroded by the death energy and evil energy in the land of the deceased immortals. Little Pig said with certainty, the opponent's strength should be above the venerable realm. Otherwise, the corpse wouldn't have been able to survive for so long without rotting. Generally, the corpses that died in the land of the deceased immortals would be affected by the aura of the land of the deceased immortals. They would be eroded and become part of the death energy and evil energy in the land of the deceased immortals. The corpse that was controlled by the blood-red immortal Jade Bone was like this. It was seriously rotten. But powerhouses above the venerable realm were different. They had already glimpsed a trace of the essence of the laws. Even after death, the aura around their bodies could prevent their bodies from decaying. Under the corrosion of the aura of the fallen immortal land, it was equivalent to completing the corpse refining process and being directly transformed into Een corpses. The strength of these Een corpses was not as strong as the main body. They only had about 1/10 of the main body's strength, but the terrifying thing was that they could instinctively use the martial arts and skills they had when they were alive. Moreover, they had no sense of pain, which made them very difficult to deal with in battle. The green-furred corpse Luo Qingtong encountered was probably around the Saint King realm. However, the strength it could unleash was above that of regular Saint Kings. If it hadn't encountered Luo Qingtong, even a peak Saint Emperor would have died under its sneak attack. And as the number of people the Een corpse killed increased, its strength would also continue to increase. In the end, it would turn around and become even more powerful than the original body when it was alive. It was not impossible. After hearing Little Pig's words, Luo Qingtong immediately understood what was going on with this corpse. At first she thought it was the same as the blood-red corpse that was controlled by the blood-red immortal jade bone. She was still vigilantly waiting for the blood-red shadow to pounce out. Unexpectedly, it wasn't like that. This green-furred corpse was a different kind of existence. However, there were really many strange things in the land of the deceased immortals. Chapter 2030. However, this harvest was also real. Luo Qingtong looked at the treasures she got from the green-haired corpse and raised her eyebrows. These foreign experts were powerful, so they naturally had a lot of good things on them. Although many things had been corroded by the aura of the graveyard of immortals and the passage of time, many things had been damaged. However, there were still some things left. Luo Qingtong put away the treasures that were damaged in different ways. These things were all treasures above the venerable realm. Even if they were damaged, they were still more powerful than ordinary Sage Realm treasures. Luo Qingtong was going to take all these treasures back and give them to Su Yu and Master Luo. If these treasures could be repaired and restored to their original power, it would be even better. However, this was a matter for the future. Luo Qingtong did not think about it for the time being. After putting away these treasures, she looked at the green-haired corpse again. The other party was turned into a Yin corpse in the graveyard of immortals. What if the corpse puppet was originally a Yin corpse? Under the aura of the graveyard of immortals, could it be greatly improved? Thinking of this, Luo Qingtong released the corpse puppet of the Great Young Saint in her hands. This corpse puppet of the Great Young Saint was refined into a corpse by Feng Wan's blood. It was very fierce and violent. Luo Qingtong did not dare to release it casually, in case it was not under her control and brought disaster to the world. However, with the improvement of her strength, this corpse puppet was useless, so it had been kept in the 9-story exquisite pagoda. Now she could use the aura of the graveyard of immortals to continue refining and improving it. After all, it was very difficult to find such a place full of death aura and evil aura. Not to mention, the death aura and evil aura contained in this place were very strong. They were all transformed from the essence of the foreign experts after they died. It was very beneficial for the corpse puppet to refine corpses. Swish. Luo Qingtong released the corpse puppet of the Great Young Saint. After the latter came out, he immediately sensed the dense death qi and evil qi in the land of the fallen immortals. He immediately roared excitedly. Then, it instinctively pounced on the green-haired corpse in front of Luo Qingtong and sucked away all the energy in its body. Then Luo Qingtong saw its strength increase rapidly. It reached the peak of the Holy General Realm and was close to the Holy Marquis Realm. All right. Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up. Sure enough, the corpse puppet of the Great Young Saint could easily grow in this environment. Just like that, he rose to the level of a Holy General. Once it killed a few more powerful Yin corpses, its strength would continue to increase. At that thought, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. With this corpse puppet of a Great Young Saint, he would have a powerful helper in this graveyard of immortals. This corpse puppet could play a huge role, and it was not something an ordinary cultivator could compare to. Luo Qingtong let the corpse puppet of the Great Young Saint leave by itself to hunt Yin corpses nearby. Then she went into the hole made by the green-haired corpse. Below the hole was a huge underground lair. The green-haired corpse usually hid below, waiting for an opportunity to attack passing practitioners. When Luo Qingtong found it, she had already seen this huge lair. Chapter 2031. Thinking about it, this was quite normal. That green-furred corpse was a zombie-like existence. It couldn't poop or piss and it didn't need to eat. Hunting cultivators were usually finished off on the surface. Therefore, it wasn't surprising that this underground lair was so clean. After wandering around and discovering that there were no hidden dangers, Luo Qingtong prepared to enter seclusion to cultivate and refine the blood immortal jade bone in her hand. Humph, you stay here and guard it. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she sealed the hole above her head. With the corpse puppet of the Great Young Sage above and Humph below, Luo Qingtong felt that she could cultivate in peace. For a short period of time, there shouldn't be anything that could disturb her. Okay. Little Pig nodded seriously, which was rare for him. It was very dangerous for Luo Qingtong to increase her strength in the land of the deceased immortals. Little Pig naturally had to protect her well. After all, Luo Qingtong's increase in strength was also very beneficial to him. His seal would be lifted in the future and he would have to depend on Luo Qingtong. He had had enough of this pink little pig's body. Also, take care of the corpse puppet of the Great Young Sage outside. Don't let it be killed by others. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she gave half of the connection to the corpse puppet of the great Yong sage to Little Pig. Little Pig was connected to her mind, so he easily took over the control. Hey, I got it. You can refine that immortal jade bone. Little Pig said to Luo Qingtong. His little pink hoof stepped on Luo Qingtong's body, then he said to her, "Oh right, you should also release that little golden mouse. That fellow is an expert at searching for treasures. It's rare to come to the land of the deceased immortals. If you don't take advantage of the treasures here, are you waiting for others to benefit?" As he spoke, he looked at Luo Qingtong smugly and said, "Let it go up there with that corpse puppet. If it has nothing to do, it can kill corpses and search for treasures. Don't waste it." Luo Qingtong also thought that this was reasonable, and she immediately released the little golden mouse. As soon as the gold-seeking hamster came out, it hugged her hair and rubbed against her cheek. Creak creak. Big treasure, big treasure. That's enough. Bring back the other treasures first, then you can freeload. As Little Pig spoke, he immediately used his little hoof to pick up the little gold mouse. The latter squeaked and protested resolutely. It was rare for it to come out, but it was not allowed to carry the big baby. "When you bring back those treasures from outside, I'll let you hug me as much as you want." Little Pig slyly said, "A treasure in exchange for a hug." Creak creak. No, at least twice. The little golden mouse waved its little claws and bargained with it. Luo Qingtong watched their interaction and her lips twitched. This guy actually used her to sell her body. However, the little gold mouse obviously liked this. After she bargained with Little Pig for a while, they reached an agreement. A treasure in exchange for 2 hugs, and she could come out to play when she had nothing to do. In an instant, the little gold mouse happily dug a hole and ran out of the ground. It wanted to unleash its primordial power and create a precious land for its precious treasure. Chapter 2032. That's right, I want to split the treasures 20 to 80. Master, you don't have the heart to take advantage of a pitiful little girl like me, right? It looked at Luo Qingtong with its teary eyes. It hurts my eyes. Luo Qingtong turned its face to the side. Also, I won't tell Qianren about this. Take your 20% as hush money. She wanted to sell her body and get a share of her loot. How could there be such a good thing? Little Pig was dumbfounded. Master, you can't do this. It looked like it wanted to cry but had no tears. Really? Luo Qingtong looked at it leisurely. So you chose to let Qianren know? Little Pig was completely terrified. Forget about that king of jealousy. Little Pig recalled the countless tragic experiences he had gone through. Although treasures were precious, his life was even more valuable. It had better behave. Little Pig shrank to the side while whimpering. Luo Qingtong, on the other hand, was focused on improving her strength. She held the crimson immortal jade bone in her hand and began to absorb and refine the power within it. While Luo Qingtong was improving her strength in the Broken Star Valley. On the other hand, the people from Beast-Taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace escaped from the depths of the abyss in a sorry state. Their robes were tattered and tattered. Their robes were torn to shreds. It was unknown what kind of ferocious beast had scratched it. Many of them had deep wounds on their bodies. Some of them were so bloody that their internal organs and bones could be seen. When the people of Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace ran out from the depths of the Broken Star Valley, beams of invisible light mixed with strong wind swept out from behind them. Then the people running at the back suddenly screamed shrilly. Their voices were sharp and high-pitched, and they were filled with a deep sense of fear. A disciple of the Beast-Taming Valley was torn to shreds by an invisible claw in front of everyone. The other Celestial Palace disciple's eyes suddenly bulged out. His face was hideous and terrified to the extreme. Then he reached out and scratched himself with a miserable expression, until his whole body was torn to pieces. In the end, he let out a bestial roar and charged towards the disciples of Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace not far from him. He opened his mouth and bit at them. Ah! The person who had been pushed down by him screamed in a shrill voice. No matter how he attacked, the other party remained firmly on top of him and did not move an inch. The other party bit viciously at him, causing large chunks of flesh and blood to fly. By the time the Celestial Palace disciple on top of him was killed by the other person under him would not be able to survive. A large group of people from Beast-Taming Valley and Celestial Palace screamed in a shrill voice. Beast-taming King Guguju and the Celestial Palace Master were the first to rush out. Their faces were unsightly. Especially the Celestial Palace Master. He had promised beast-taming King Guguju to come and get something for them, but he did not expect it to be so dangerous inside. How was this asking them to come and help? This was clearly asking them to die. Chapter 2033. He had almost died in there. As for the beast-tamer King Guguju, there was no need to even mention him. This time he proposed to cooperate with the master of the Celestial Palace. He thought that it would be easy for him to enter the palace and take out the 5th beast-taming incantation. Who would have thought that there would be such a thing in the depths of the cave? Furthermore, it was overwhelming. Almost all of them had been left behind in there. He looked at the last few people in the Broken Star Valley with an ugly face, dying miserably in front of him. Every corpse had either been bitten beyond recognition or had their stomachs ripped open. No one knew what had viciously scratched them to death. Then these corpses stood up shakily in front of them. They dragged their broken limbs and intestines, which were almost all over the ground, and slowly walked inside. The people from Beast-taming King's Valley and Celestial Palace felt their blood run cold. One had to know that the immortal jade bones in their bodies were still intact. It was impossible for them to be corroded to this extent by the aura of the fallen immortal land. It was done by those things inside. That frightening thing. Beast-tamer King Guguju, I'm afraid that the people of Celestial Palace won't be able to help you. Goodbye. The owner of Celestial Palace looked at those corpses staggering into the depths of Broken Stars Valley with a horrified look. He then turned around and was about to leave with his subordinates. Hold on. The beast-tamer King Guguju looked at him and coldly shouted, Master of the Celestial Palace, if you want to help someone, help them to the end. Since your people from the Celestial Palace have already agreed to help us, and you've already paid such a huge price to enter, wouldn't it be a pity to give up now? We, the Beast-taming King's Valley, are willing to promise that if you help us obtain that item, we, the Beast-taming King's Valley, will help you people from the Celestial Palace form contracts with demonic beasts in the future. I'll give you a fixed quota every year. How about that? Beast-tamer King Guguju. The master of Celestial Palace looked furious. This isn't a matter of promises. Those things are in there. With just us alone, it's impossible for us to shake them. How can we help you obtain the things inside? The Celestial Palace Master was also moved by Guguju's promise. With the help of the Beast-taming King Valley, only a few dozen people would be able to form contracts with demonic beasts. For the people of Celestial Palace, how much of a boost would that be? However, no matter how great the increase in strength was, the people of Celestial Palace had to be alive to take it. Those terrible things in there. If the people of Celestial Palace wanted to help the people of Beast-taming King's Valley obtain the items inside, they didn't know what kind of price they would have to pay. Even if all of them were to fill in, it might not be possible. Under such circumstances, even if the Beast-taming King's Valley were to offer them a huge reward, he wouldn't dare to accept it. Seeing that the people of Celestial Palace were about to retreat, the Beast-tamer King Guguju gritted his teeth. We, the Beast-taming King's Valley, will gather people from all over to help. When the time comes, the other sects will act together. The pressure on us will be a lot less. Let them restrain those things outside and we'll go inside to get those things. If we're fast enough, we should be able to do it. Hearing his words, the master of Celestial Palace suddenly stopped in his tracks. Chapter 2034. What the other party said couldn't be what he was thinking, could it? Before he could finish his words, Beast-tamer King Guguju had already seen through his thoughts. He nodded and said, That's exactly what you're thinking. We'll use people from other sects as cannon fodder to attract the attention of those things. We'll take the opportunity to rush to the innermost area. Beast-tamer King Guguju's face was grim. It was basically impossible for sects above the 3rd class to come and help them. Because those people were busy improving their strength and looking for opportunities in the land of the deceased immortals. However, it was possible for 3rd class and below sects to come. Because they might not be able to gain much in the land of the deceased immortals. If they could build a relationship with those sects, they would be happy to come and help them. At that time, they would use those people to attract the attention of those terrible things. As long as there were enough people, they would definitely be able to reduce the number of those things. At that time, they could take the opportunity to break through. Beast Tamer King Guguju was determined to get the fifth part of the Beast Tamer incantation from the Shattered Star Valley. He didn't know why, but ever since he knew that the Holy Book was spied on and the location of the Shattered Star Valley was known to Luo Qingtong, he was always frightened. He was afraid that Luo Qingtong would do something that would ruin their plan to get the fifth part of the Beast Tamer incantation. Therefore he was not going to wait any longer. Anyway, Luo Qingtong already knew the location of the Shattered Star Valley. She could reveal it to the public at any time. In that case, what was the point of hiding it? The most important thing was to gather everyone and take out the things inside. Thinking of this, he immediately said to the Master of Celestial Palace, "In this way, the losses on both sides will be minimized. You people from Celestial Palace only need to help us at the last moment. What do you think?" Beast Tamer King Guguju's words made the Master of Celestial Palace feel a rush of excitement. If that was the case, it was indeed a rare opportunity for the Celestial Palace. As he thought about it, he immediately nodded and said, "Yes, if there are enough people, we of Celestial Palace can continue to help you." As long as the people of Celestial Palace were not sacrificed, it did not matter to them how many people died. Moreover, those people who entered the land of the fallen immortals should have been prepared to die. It didn't matter if he was killed or used to death. Alright. Beast Tamer King Guguju nodded and immediately ordered his men to make arrangements. Beside him, Elder and the others did not say anything. The beast taming King Guguju was right. The fifth beast taming law must be taken out. As for the location of the Broken Star Valley, it didn't matter if it was exposed. Anyway, when Luo Qingtong pried the Holy Book, the location of the Broken Star Valley was no longer a secret. As long as he could get the incantation, everything would be worth it. While the people of Beast Tamer Valley were spreading the news of the Broken Star Valley, waiting for other people to come to the land of the fallen immortals, in the underground cave where Luo Qingtong was. Bang! At the place where the young girl was sitting, an extremely tyrannical burst of energy suddenly erupted from the place where the girl was sitting. In an instant, the walls of the cave around her made a series of puff, puff, puff sounds. Countless small holes appeared in the walls. The powerful energy poured into the holes was extremely sharp, and no one knew how many meters it extended into the walls. The soil above Luo Qingtong's head was completely penetrated. Chapter 2035. Bang! A shattering sound suddenly erupted from within her body. Then, as if something was being generated from within her body, a powerful and frightening power suddenly erupted from within her body. Bang! The entire underground lair shook violently from the explosion in Luo Qingtong's body. A tyrannical force that was completely different from the Saint King realm suddenly shone brightly from within Luo Qingtong's body like a scorching sun. Saint Emperor realm. Feeling the new force in her body, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Finally, she took another step forward. She was a little closer to that man. Her eyes shone brightly and shone brightly. In this enclosed dark space, her eyes were extremely bright and dazzling. Beside her, Little Pig also hopped up to her. "Hey, hey, hey. Master, you've broken through." It looked happily at the fierce aura emanating from Luo Qingtong's body. Because she had just broken through, Luo Qingtong's aura had not been completely restrained. That exposed sharpness was as sharp as a sword. In this enclosed underground lair, it cut in all directions. Yes. Luo Qingtong looked at it and nodded. Then she asked, "How long did I break through?" Although in her heart she estimated that it would not take too long this time. After all, the power in this blood-colored celestial jade bone was extraordinarily pure, and the power of blood chi was also very strong. It was enough for Luo Qingtong to raise her strength level in a short period of time without needing to replenish her energy to fill the gap in her cultivation level. However, Luo Qingtong still asked to avoid missing too much time in the land of the deceased immortals. One had to know that the aura in the forbidden area would weaken enough for people to enter in at most 7 days. 4 days. Little Pig said. It also knew that Luo Qingtong was worried, so it took note of the time. Okay. Luo Qingtong nodded. Then she said to Little Pig, "Continue to guard here. I'll go see Qian Ren." Thinking of the man who could not enter from outside, Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. Her mental strength entered the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring on her left ring finger. Because of the unique aura in the land of the deceased immortals, Xianxia's soul could not appear by her side through the connection between the 9 Netherworld Phoenix ring and the 10-sided dragon ring. After all, That man's soul was a great supplement to the aura of death in the land of the deceased immortals. Who knew how many evil beings would covet it? The entire land of the deceased immortals. The entire land of the deceased immortals. However, even if Yi Qianren couldn't come in, it didn't mean that Luo Qingtong couldn't go out to see him. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up and she closed her eyes. Her mental strength followed the connection of the 9 phoenix ring on her left ring finger and extended to the 10-directional dragon ring. Whoosh! Outside the land of the deceased immortals, Yi Qianxian stood on top of a mountain with his hands behind his back. He looked at the scene in front of him. At this moment, the 10-sided dragon ring on his left ring finger suddenly moved. Soon after, a small figure rushed out from within. Qianren. Luo Qingtong's little face was smiling. She was both charming and cute. She looked at the man's face close to her and pounced on him. It's been so many days. Did you miss me? Chapter 2036. That small and soft hand was not even as big as Yi Qianxian's lips. The latter seemed to have sensed something when the Shifang dragon ring moved. When Luo Qingtong pounced on him, he had already removed the protection around his body. He even waved his sleeves to support Luo Qingtong so that she would not fall from his body. Why did you suddenly come out? Yi Qianxian looked at the small person in front of him. The soft and real touch on his lips put him in a very good mood. Luo Qingtong's 9 nether phoenix ring and his Shifang dragon ring were connected. Even if Luo Qingtong was only a soul, the feeling of kissing was the same as a real kiss. Even when he touched the girl, he could feel the same warmth and softness. It was just that Luo Qingtong's figure was too small. Yi Qianxian looked at Luo Qingtong's small body and his eyes darkened. After kissing her back, he immediately wrapped her in his palm and asked her in a hoarse voice. Did she miss him? Yi Qianxian thought that Luo Qingtong might have specially come out of the land of the deceased immortals to see him because she missed him. He was very happy. Luo Qingtong did not let him down. She smiled and said, "Of course it's because I miss you." Luo Qingtong had never been a pretentious person. Since she was already with Yi Qianxian, she naturally would not be stingy to let him know her feelings for him. At that moment, she openly told him how much she missed Yi Qianren. When Yi Qianxian heard this, the corners of his lips curled up. The depth of his eyes, as well as the coldness and sharpness of his blade, were all retracted. Looking at the little girl sitting in his palm, his gaze was indescribably gentle and soft, carrying a doting and protective care that could drown a person to death. This sovereign also misses you very much. It was rare for Yi Qianren's ears to turn slightly red when she said this. He rarely made public the love in his heart. His love for Luo Qingtong had always been silent and restrained. He did more than he said. He could violate many of his principles and pride for Luo Qingtong. But the words of love he said to Luo Qingtong could be said with one hand. His innate pride and nobility made it difficult for him to say anything pleasant and humble in front of Luo Qingtong. But in the process of getting along with the girl, he almost instinctively lowered his status to cater to her and let her be unbridled. All of his pride and principles, all of his persistence and arrogance, they were all broken for her. Haha. When Yi Qianxian spoke, Luo Qingtong's eyes lit up with a smile. She liked the way Yi Qianxian doted on her. It made her feel like she was placed in the palm of his hand, loved and tolerated at all costs. This feeling was very fascinating. If it was said that Luo Qingtong's initial desire for Yi Qianren was due to her yearning for the power in this world, she instinctively wanted to take this man for herself. However, she was afraid that he would not be under her control, so she purposely stayed away from him. But now Luo Qingtong had truly fallen in love with Yi Qianxian. Apart from grandfather Luo, this man was the most tolerant and doting person in the world for her. But grandfather Luo's kindness was mostly because of the original owner. Chapter 2037. He fell in love with her because she was Luo Qi. She was herself. That was why he chose to be with her. From the beginning to the end, Yi Qianxian only saw her, the supreme ocular sorcerer from the 24th century. Luo Qingtong thought about it and kissed Yi Qianxian on the cheek. Then she said with a smile, "My strength has broken through to the Holy Emperor realm." She briefly explained what happened in the land of the deceased immortals. Then she said, "I have the corpse puppet of the great Yong sage following me. You don't have to worry. Strength is increasing very quickly. It shouldn't take long for it to become stronger than me." Yi Qianxian nodded. He supported the girl's mini form with one hand so that she could lean on his cheek. His face was expressionless and he didn't say anything. He could pick up Luo Qingtong at any time. But if he did so, the land of the deceased immortals would collapse and disappear because of his interference. Therefore he wouldn't do it unless he had no other choice. He also wouldn't interfere with Luo Qingtong's training in the land of the deceased immortals. The girl didn't want to stay under his wing. She wanted to become stronger and stand shoulder to shoulder with him. This was one of the processes she had to go through. Xianxia respected her pride and thoughts. Moreover, his young lady was supposed to be someone who stood in the sky with him. The domineering aura on her body had never been inferior to his. Once the young phoenix rose with the wind, it would soar for 90,000 miles. He was waiting for the treasure in his hand. The day when the young phoenix cried and the world shook. "I'll wait for you," he said to Luo Qingtong. "I'll wait for your return." "Of course." Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly. The two leaned against each other and talked a lot. Most of the time it was Luo Qingtong talking and Xianxia listening. The two of them waited quietly. Under the setting sun, Xianxia's figure drew an extremely long and narrow shadow on the mountain peak. Luo Qingtong's small figure stood on his shoulder, supported by one of his hands. She leaned against his cheek talking and laughing. Time passed slowly and peacefully. Bei Qing, Feng Yu and the others watched from afar and did not come to disturb them. After Luo Qingtong and Xianxia chatted for a while, her heart suddenly skipped a beat. Someone had touched her body. Luo Qingtong's body was in an underground lair in the land of the deceased immortals. The protective measures were excellent, so no one should be able to touch her body. The only possibility was Little Pig. Was it calling her back? Luo Qingtong's mind raced. After saying goodbye to Xianxia, her figure disappeared. Zhoush. In the underground lair in the land of the deceased immortals, Luo Qingtong's consciousness returned. Her eyes suddenly opened. What's going on? She looked at Little Pig beside her. The latter was lying on her body, poking her with its little hooves. The movements that Luo Qingtong sensed just now were all caused by Little Pig. It's that corpse puppet and the little golden mouse. Something happened. Seeing that Luo Qingtong had woken up, Little Pig immediately jumped out of her body. I sense something wrong outside. They seem to have been kidnapped. Chapter 2038. And the little golden mouse on his body was also intercepted by someone. It wanted to go out and take a look, but wasn't Luo Qingtong still asleep? It was afraid that something would happen to Luo Qingtong after it left, so it could only wake her up. Anyway, she wanted to talk to that man and there would be plenty of opportunities after they went out. It was about time to meet him. Hearing this, Luo Qingtong's eyes suddenly narrowed. Let's go out and take a look. As she spoke, she directly hugged the little pig and rushed out of the ground. Bang! Somewhere not far from where Luo Qingtong was in seclusion, a group of people were holding weapons and besieging the corpse puppet of the great young saint. Haha. I didn't expect our luck to be so good to encounter such a corpse with treasures hanging all over its body. Yeah. There are too many treasures on this corpse. This group of people looked at the treasures hanging on the corpse puppet of the great young saint with a covetous expression. The little golden mouse was really awesome. With the corpse puppet of the great young saint, it had almost cleared out all the corpses in the surrounding dozens of miles. Because it specifically picked the corpses with treasures, and most of those corpses were relatively strong, the corpse puppet of the great young saint was also very messy after a series of battles. From the clothes on its body, it was impossible to tell that it was a person from the true Spill continent. Of course, even if they could tell, these people probably wouldn't care. Because their gazes were all attracted by the dazzling array of treasures on the corpse puppet. With so many treasures, even those people from first-class sects might not be able to obtain them in the land of the fallen immortals if they didn't have a certain amount of luck. Everyone was drooling with desire, and they immediately attacked the corpse puppet of the great young saint with even more strength. Bang bang bang. Their attacks heavily bombarded the corpse puppet of the great young saint, splashing sparks and energy in all directions. The corpse puppet of the great young saint had already raised its strength to the level of a saint king during this period of killing corpses. It was a corpse puppet refined from a corpse, so it was like a fish in water in the land of the fallen immortals. Moreover, because they were refined into corpses by living relatives, they were even more powerful than ordinary corpse puppets and corpses. Even the corpses in the land of the fallen immortals were no match for it unless they were particularly powerful. They could only be suppressed by the ferocious aura emanating from its body. Now that these people's attacks landed on his body, he immediately roared in anger. Roar. He roared furiously like a wild beast with a tearing sound of metal. Then he suddenly pounced on these people. The little gold mouse popped its head out from his bosom and looked at the crowd that was attacking them with all their might. It squeaked and its voice was filled with anger. These guys were too evil. It had specially found these things to exchange for hugs for its big baby. These bad guys actually wanted to snatch them away. How could this be? Big Rock beat them up. That's right, the little gold mouse called the corpse puppet Big Rock. Who told him to be as hard as a rock and so powerful. The little gold mouse's voice mixed with the roar of the corpse puppet resounded in the sky. Chapter 2039. Haha. I didn't expect this corpse puppet to have a gold-seeking mouse. This is a very rare treasure. The gold-seeking mouse's function was to search for treasures everywhere. With them almost no treasure would be missed. This kind of demonic beast was extremely rare in the hidden world. When the people of Celestial Palace obtained it before, they were very careful. They didn't dare to publicize it. Even after Elder Xia and the others were killed, they didn't dare to announce to the world that they were looking for the gold-seeking mouse. First, the news of the treasure map couldn't be exposed. Second, this gold-seeking mouse was precious enough that they didn't dare to publicize it. They thought that after finding the murderer, they would take back the gold-seeking mouse and the treasure map. However, who would have thought that the one who killed Elder Xia and the others would be Luo Qingtong, a girl that they had never put in their eyes and never doubted. Not to mention Luo Qingtong, even the people of True Spill Continent and the people of Celestial Palace had never doubted it. They only thought that the people of the hidden world in True Spill Continent killed Elder Xia, but they didn't know that they were chasing in the wrong direction. In the end, they completely missed the opportunity and didn't find Luo Qingtong at all. After that, they didn't have any more chances. The people besieging the corpse puppet looked at the little golden mouse with surprise. They thought that they had struck it rich. With the little golden mouse, their future gains in the land of the deceased immortals would reach a whole new level. Not only that, but in the hidden world they wouldn't have to worry about finding treasures to use. However, they didn't think that this little golden mouse would appear here, and that the corpse puppet had so many treasures on it. Obviously it wasn't a coincidence, but it was raised by someone. But everyone had been dazzled by the dazzling treasures and didn't think of this at all. Even if some people suspected it, who would have thought that the corpse in the fallen immortal land would be controlled by someone? No one thought in this direction at all. Even if some people were suspicious, they only felt that it was a little strange and thought that their opportunity had come. That was why they encountered such a strange thing. Everyone worked even harder to attack the corpse puppet. Almost all of them were at the Saint King realm and a few of them were even at the Saint Emperor realm. Their combined might was astonishing. Even though this great young saint's corpse puppet possessed astonishing strength, comparable to a peak sage emperor, and was like a fish in water in the graveyard of immortals, receiving the support of the aura of the graveyard of immortals, it was still forced back by their attacks. His skin, which was as hard as iron, was also cut open by their attacks. Creak, creak, creak. Seeing this scene, the little gold mouse instantly cried out anxiously. Big Stone, you have to hold on. If you can't hold on, these treasures along with me will be snatched away by these people. That won't do. Big baby, come quickly. Someone stole our treasures. The little gold mouse cried out anxiously. It wanted to slip off the corpse puppet's body and leave to find Luo Qingtong and Little Pig. However, those people had been keeping an eye on it for a long time. How could they let it leave? As soon as it made a move, someone would target it and force it back. Chapter 2040. Bang. Seeing those people besieging the corpse puppet and forcing it to retreat repeatedly, countless wounds appeared all over its body. Luo Qingtong's gaze was slightly cold. She raised her hand and blasted an attack forward. Boom. The attack landed in front of the corpse puppet of the great young saint. Together with the corpse puppet's attack, it blocked the attacks of those besieging it. With the help of this attack, the corpse puppet of the great young saint suddenly broke free from the besiegement of those people. It roared angrily and fled into the distance. It was Luo Qingtong who had ordered it to leave, lest it be besieged and killed here, wasting her efforts for nothing. The corpse puppet of the great young saint obeyed the order and quickly disappeared before everyone's eyes. It rushed to the underground lair where Luo Qingtong had previously secluded herself to recuperate. Seeing the corpse puppet of the great young saint leave, those besieging the corpse puppet were instantly enraged. They looked at Luo Qingtong and shouted angrily, "Scoundrel, who are you? You actually dare to let our prey go?" These people had long regarded the corpse puppet of the great young saint as theirs. Now that it had escaped, how could they not be angry? Especially since this corpse puppet was released by Luo Qingtong. Thinking that the other party had just openly attacked them, hindered their movements, and let the corpse puppet escape, the crowd was furious and immediately attacked Luo Qingtong. "You don't need to care who I am. The important thing is that what you touched is mine." Luo Qingtong's gaze was cold as she looked at the crowd in front of her. At her feet stood the little golden mouse that had just come down from the corpse puppet of the great young saint. The latter stood by her feet and complained to her with a series of gestures. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The little golden mouse was furious. It angrily told Luo Qingtong that it and Big Stone were walking peacefully on the road when these people suddenly rushed out and attacked them. Big Stone wanted to leave, but these people didn't let him and wanted to snatch the treasures on them. Big treasures, big treasures. You have to uphold justice for us." Big Stone was beaten so badly by them. These people were simply taking advantage of their power to bully the corpse. No, there was also the mouse. Those were treasures that it had obtained with great difficulty. How hard it was. When the little golden mouse said that it was wronged, it jumped onto Luo Qingtong's foot and hugged her calf. Luo Qingtong looked at its gestures and narrowed her eyes. The little pig in her bosom had already translated the little gold mouse's words for her to hear. These people had coveted the treasures on her corpse puppet, so they wanted to rob and kill her so that they could take those treasures for themselves. Together with this little golden mouse. Luo Qingtong let the little golden mouse climb onto her shoulder and then looked up at these people. The latter and the others didn't expect to get such an answer. That corpse puppet, its treasures, and this little golden mouse actually all belonged to this young girl in front of them? How could she control the corpses in the land of the deceased immortals? The crowd was thinking in bewilderment. Suddenly, a martial artist raised his hand and pointed at Luo Qingtong, shouting, "I know who she is. It's her. Luo Qingtong, that night I." Following this martial artist's words, everyone's expression became even more surprised. Chapter 2041. Luo Qingtong, Night I. None of the people present were unfamiliar with these two names. Previously in the Hidden World, the matter between Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King Valley had caused a great uproar. Even the people from the Star Alliance Palace were involved. Everyone had heard enough gossip and naturally knew what glorious deeds Luo Qingtong, who was also known as Night Eye, had done in these two families. Not to mention, at the entrance of the land of the deceased immortals, Luo Qingtong had personally admitted that she was the one who had dealt with the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. The conflict between Celestial Palace and Beast-Taming King Valley was completely orchestrated by her. Not only that, but she also had the treasure map that the first-class sects and even the Star Alliance Palace coveted. Thinking of the various benefits that this treasure map could bring, and then thinking of the treasures on the corpse puppet that Luo Qingtong had released, everyone looked at Luo Qingtong with surprise and greed. This girl had too many good things on her. Previously they had some doubts and felt that it was impossible for anyone to control the corpses in the land of the deceased immortals. However, after hearing about Luo Qingtong's identity, they could no longer doubt her words. After all, she had the treasure map of the land of the deceased immortals. What was the big deal about being able to control the corpses in the land of the deceased immortals? However, watching so many treasures disappear in front of their eyes, the crowd felt somewhat unreconciled. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong had even greater benefits. One had to know that although they might not have enough strength to get their hands on the treasure map, they could use it to trade with others. Presumably, those first-class sects would be very willing to use all kinds of promises and benefits in exchange for the treasure map in their hands. Not to mention the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace had been looking for Luo Qingtong all this time. If they could capture the girl and hand her over to the people from Beast-Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace, in addition to the treasure map, they didn't know how many benefits they would get. Perhaps they could also get a share of the good things in the forbidden area. Thinking of this, the crowd's gaze towards Luo Qingtong changed. They looked at each other, then slowly spread out and surrounded Luo Qingtong. Ridiculous. At this moment, an expert at the peak of the Sage Emperor stage sneered at Luo Qingtong and said as he looked at Luo Qingtong. Luo Qingtong, I think you saw that we were about to get a good thing, so you deliberately came to cause trouble. The group of people pretended not to see the little golden mouse on Luo Qingtong's body being intimate with her, and said blindly and coldly, "You let go of our prey, so now use yourself to take the blame." They looked greedily at Luo Qingtong, thinking of the benefits they could get after capturing her, and immediately sneered. Luo Qingtong, hand over the treasure map and the little golden mouse on your body, and call back the Yin corpse and we'll spare your life. Another Sage Emperor stage expert looked at Luo Qingtong and said. His expression was sinister. They would naturally spare Luo Qingtong's life, but they didn't know if the people from Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace would spare her life. Chapter 2042. So, you want to snatch it by force? Luo Qingtong's gaze swept across the group of people who were surrounding her. She raised her eyes slightly and the smile on her lips was cold. These people coveted the treasures on her corpse puppet. She hadn't even made a move against them, but they couldn't wait to make a move against her. They wanted everything on her and they weren't even going to let her off? Using herself as a bargaining chip? Sure. But they couldn't afford to pay that price. What do you mean by snatching? We just want to recoup our losses. The group of people said shamelessly. You let go of the prey that we deserve, so you naturally have to pay the price. And the price was Luo Qingtong herself. All right. Luo Qingtong looked at them and the smile on her lips grew colder. She stood there, her red robes fluttering in the wind. She was alluring and domineering. Her beautiful face was filled with an evil and seductive aura. Since that's the case, come and get it yourselves. As she spoke, Luo Qingtong stretched out her right hand, and the life and death duality sword appeared in her hand. She suddenly grasped it. With a whoosh, a sword light suddenly slashed out from her hand. She had just advanced to the Holy Emperor realm, and this was a good opportunity to see how much her strength had increased. Bang! When Luo Qingtong's sword light slashed out, the people surrounding her also attacked. Everyone be careful. Don't kill her. Otherwise, we won't be able to get the location of the treasure map. That's right. Everyone be careful. We still have to hand this person over to the Beast Taming King Valley and Celestial Palace. With their hatred for her, they'll definitely pay a huge price to exchange it with us. Apart from that, there will be many other benefits. Let's not be careless and lose it. The group looked at Luo Qingtong as if they were looking at a mountain of gold. As for the girl's attack, they didn't even take it seriously. She was just an early-stage Holy Emperor. Although the girl's speed of improvement was monstrous, and she had advanced to the Holy Emperor realm in such a short time. But there was more than one Holy Emperor realm expert among them. Not to mention that these Holy King realm experts weren't weak. Under the encirclement, Luo Qingtong was just an early-stage Holy Emperor. Even a peak Saint Emperor or an expert who had just entered the Saint Emperor realm wouldn't be able to escape their encirclement with ease. However, just as they were thinking about it, countless flaming auras flew out from Luo Qingtong's attack with a whoosh. This was the soul seal power of the soul of 10,000 flames that Luo Qingtong had comprehended. She's the holy strength and hers is and it's her to attack. S's. Under these circumstances, Luo Qingtong's ordinary attacks were enough to crush regular Saint Kings. The sword light in her hand directly collided with the attacks of those people. In an instant, countless flames flew out and cancelled out the attacks of those people. The attacks of those Holy Emperor realm experts were completely shattered. Boom, boom, boom. Luo Qingtong's attack went straight in. The sword light was like a dragon, and it instantly slashed at those who were attacking her. Chapter 2043. What? None of them had expected their attacks to be split apart so easily. They had already retracted their attacks and were waiting confidently to capture Luo Qingtong. However, who would have thought that the situation would be completely different from what they had expected? Luo Qingtong's attack had directly shattered their attacks. The attacks of a group of people were actually unable to do anything to the Saint Emperor realm girl in front of them. Not only that, the splattering flames and sword light had also slashed their bodies. In just an instant, more than half of the people who had rushed to the front were killed by Luo Qingtong's sword light. As for the people behind him, they were also heavily injured by this sword attack. What's going on? Everyone was astonished. Luo Qingtong was only a Saint Emperor realm expert. Moreover, she had just entered the Saint Emperor realm. How could she be so powerful? Even with so many of them attacking together, they still couldn't do anything to her? Moreover, there were even a few Saint Emperor realm experts amongst them. No matter how they looked at it, the one who should be crushed should be Luo Qingtong. While everyone was shocked, Luo Qingtong had already leaped up again. She did not intend to give these people any time to react. At this moment, a sword light slashed down again. Annihilation. The extremely violent sword light seemed to carry an endless amount of light as it swept past in front of him. Everywhere it passed, the fog in the land of the deceased immortals trembled violently. At this moment, countless auras and forces were constantly being destroyed and transformed by the power of Luo Qingtong's sword light, strengthening her attack. Bang! The end of the sword light cut the ground with a loud bang. Almost in an instant, it had cut a deep gully in the ground. Then it slammed heavily towards the people who had besieged Luo Qingtong. The latter and the others were horrified. Those Saint Emperors could feel the power of Luo Qingtong's attack. It was enough to kill all of them here. Luo Qingtong was too powerful. How could she be so strong? How was this a strength that a Saint King could possess? Even an ordinary Saint Emperor realm expert would probably not be inferior to him in any way. Only now did they realize what kind of monster they were up against. Previously, they had wanted to capture Luo Qingtong and send her to the beast-taming King Valley and Celestial Palace in exchange for benefits. Now they had no idea how ridiculous their thoughts were. They were already very lucky that Luo Qingtong did not find trouble with them. But they still wanted to find trouble with Luo Qingtong. Everyone's hearts were filled with regret and fear. When they saw Luo Qingtong's attack coming, they hurriedly tried to stop it. Quick! Let's attack together. Stop her attack, then we'll immediately scatter and escape. Everyone's faces were filled with panic. Facing Luo Qingtong's attack, they immediately used 100% of their strength. They all used their best attacks and mobilized all the strength in their bodies to attack Luo Qingtong's sword light. However, Luo Qingtong's sword light could eliminate and transform everyone's attack into her own strength. Under such circumstances, unless it was a Saint Emperor who was much stronger than Luo Qingtong, only then would they be able to block Luo Qingtong's attack. Chapter 2044. However, among this group of people, there were Saint Emperors who were stronger than Luo Qingtong. There were not even ordinary Saint Emperors. They could only watch helplessly as the powerful sword light transformed all the power they had blasted out in an instant. Their attacks were all transformed into the power of Luo Qingtong's attack. This made her sword light even more majestic and filled with murderous intent. Bang! Their bodies were ruthlessly slashed by the sword light that swept past them. The Saint Kings at the front were the first to be struck by this attack. They cried out as they were chopped to pieces. As for the other Saint King realm cultivators, they were directly turned into ashes by the violent power of this powerful attack. It wasn't that no one wanted to turn around and run in such a confrontation. However, the power of the soul of 10,000 flames that Luo Qingtong had shaken off with her attack had long been suspended in the air. Countless fiery auras surrounded this area and turned it into a death zone. Anyone who was in this forbidden zone would die. Ah! Tragic screams resounded in the sky. The sky was filled with flying flesh and blood. Luo Qingtong's figure slowly descended in this scene of blood and death. Her fluttering black hair mixed with her blood-red robes, coupled with her gorgeous appearance and cold smile. In this hellish scene, it was as if there was a god of death and an Azura dancer who stepped on blood and was bathed in blood and death. She gently stepped on the ground that had been shaken off by her aura and was thus not stained with a trace of blood. Looking at the scene around her, her expression did not change at all. Since they dared to attack her, they should be prepared to die. Luo Qingtong's cold eyes swept across the crowd in front of her. Suddenly, she saw a figure who was wrapped in countless flames and had not been burned to death. The other party's figure was shrouded in the power of the soul of 10,000 flames. He was constantly screaming and struggling, but there was a faint power lingering around him that enveloped his body. It seemed that there was some kind of treasure protecting him, allowing him to resist the power that Luo Qingtong had arranged around him. This Saint King realm cultivator had already escaped 100 meters away from the area that Luo Qingtong had set up. If it weren't for the fact that all the people around him had been wiped out, Luo Qingtong would not have been able to see him. Looking at his figure, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and was about to raise her sword to end him. At this moment, Little Pig, who was beside her, suddenly saw something on the man's body. "Hey, wait. Master, it's the jade pendant that your father has." Little Pig's voice sounded, and Luo Qingtong's hand suddenly stopped swinging her sword. Her gaze swept past the martial artist's neck and immediately saw a small jade pendant hanging on his neck. At this moment, the jade pendant was flickering with a faint light that enveloped the cultivator. It turned out that the power of this jade pendant was what helped this cultivator resist the power of Luo Qingtong's soul of 10,000 flames. And this jade pendant was exactly the same as the one that Luo Qingtong obtained from the Celestial Palace Protector. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes and appeared in front of the cultivator in a flash. She raised her hand and withdrew the power of the soul of 10,000 flames. "Where did you get this jade pendant?"